Okay, so now we're at part three of the introduction section, and I'm going to go through and answer the questions that were posed to us. What do I think when I think of leadership as far as community college? To me, I think of a big family, and the leadership at a community college should be kind of like the parents or the heads of that family. They should know what is best for that institution, and they should work to help faculty, other administrators, and our students work towards the common goal to making that family successful. That's the kind of community college I came from, and in my plans to work within a community college, that's the kind of community college leadership that I hope to bring to wherever I end up working. And when I think of community college student mental health, the first thing that pops into my mind is stress, being overworked, multiple obligations to family, and how all of that really is compiles on a student's ability to focus on their grades and on their academics to complete their program. So that's usually what I think of when I think of mental health, and how can we help students manage all of those, juggling all of those things in the air. When I think of state level policy, oversight, accountability, and government relations, before I knew anything about them at the community college level, I really thought it was just another thing box that we had to check as far as staying in line with our accreditation. But through after a couple of years of working within the community college and learning about accreditation and volunteering and being part of committees, I learned that in order for our community college and all schools to be accountable to each other, um, to our state, and to our students, we need to figure out and create a master plan and stick to that plan so that when a student leaves our campus, they will be able to go to any other university or out into the workforce and flourish. So if we don't monitor ourselves and to ensure that we have standards and we're setting them, then unfortunately I think we're going to turn into what the public schools do. And a big accrediting agency, even bigger than and SACS is here in Texas, even bigger than them, are going to tell us line by line what we have to do, how to teach. They're going to give us tests that we have to pass, instead of really us being able to focus on what we think is important for the students to learn. If we don't set our own standards, the government's going to set it for us, and we might not like what those are. So I think I look at it as a positive now, because it gives us control, and it gives the community college control over what they set to think is important, and how to go relationships and building those measures to ensure that students are being successful. Let's see. Um, do you have experience at the community college? Yes, I have over 10 years experience at the community college. I started out as a speech communication professor. Within a year, I was a department chair, and within 2 years, I was a division chair for humanities and fine arts. Along with that, I was on the SACS, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges. I was an on-site and an off-site committee member, so I got to learn all about the accreditation process. Um, I presented at the American Association of Community Colleges. I worked at the prison, taking courses off of our main campus into the prisons. I've taught online. I've taught hybrid courses. I've built curriculum. So I feel like I have a lot of experience at the community college level. Um, I really, well, I guess what excites me most about this course is I'm going to actually see if what I'm learning in content is is kind of what I already know through experience, and how can I match those two things. Look for maybe the holes that I was missing while I was teaching, and implement some of the things that I'm learning in this course. So I'm just kind of putting them together with what I already know, and what I'm going to learn. So that's what I'm excited about. And then getting to visit the different campuses for community colleges that Dr. Latz has planned. So I'm excited about going to those different campuses. What seems daunting? Nothing. Nothing scares me about any of this program. I think I was very nervous when I first started my doc program, but I'm this is my third semester now, and I feel like I have a really good grasp on what the expectations are. I've had Dr. Latz in the fall semester. The American, I'm sorry, I can't even think of the course, but it was about community colleges. And so I know her format, and I really enjoy how it's laid out. So I really think that it's going to be a great summer session. And then, so what can Dr. Latz do to make the course the best possible experience? Just keep doing what you're doing. I like that you have everything organized and everything's posted to Blackboard. And I like that we get to meet face to face every so often to really discuss our ideas and where we're going. So now, talking about the case studies, the issues to consider. So I'm going to talk about the first one. It says, what risks are inherent in not having an up-to-date college media relations strategy? What are the risks of not having a social media governance plan? How can a college leadership team use to media social media to advance the mission of the college? First of all, in this day and age, we need to be on social media. It really used to be just for fun, and now it is a vehicle for everyone to get their institution and their ideas out there to students in pretty much real time. So if you do not have an active social media site, you're actually telling your students you don't feel that part of technology is important. And if technology is a part of students' everyday life and businesses' everyday life, and you're not meeting the students where they need to be, you're not being very effective as an institution. So it's definitely, and you can't just have some random person in charge of Facebook or some random person in charge of Instagram. You need to have a plan of what is the face that you want to project to the world digitally so that they can see what your institution is about, who gets to run that site, how often do they run it, what kind of information is posted. When I worked at the community college, I helped to build our website to make it accessible to students and where they could find the links, because a lot of them were like, I have to click like 10 times to get to a topic. So how can you make it more efficient for users to go to your website and find the information that they need? Um, so it's definitely important, and you need to have a good leader in charge of that, because your presence is as important as your presence face to face, because a lot of times people will go to your website first and decide whether or not they even want to step foot on your campus. So the next question says, AACC encourages community colleges to redesign, reinvent, and reset, the three R's. Further in this book, Redesigning America's Community Colleges, A Clearer Path to Student Success, the author suggests ways that community colleges should redesign academic programs for student success. How do you envision making the organizational changes at your college to respond to these challenges? What factors will need to be taken into consideration to make these changes? And which constituent groups will need to be engaged? What steps will need to be taken to engage them? So, um, part of my research I really want to focus on is bridging the gap between secondary and post-secondary education, with an emphasis on community colleges and the Hispanic population, especially first-generation college students. So I've kind of thought about this a lot, and it's kind of an ongoing project of what I want to do. But what I think would be a good idea is, as we know, the Hispanic population is just growing by leaps and bounds, and then within the next 20 years, we're going to be the largest minority group in the United States. But yet, we're the least represented in higher education, with the students completing their programs, but also even in faculty and administration within higher education. So, how can we turn that around? So, one of the ideas that I think we should do is, I'm sure y'all have all heard of HBUs, historically black universities or historically black colleges. But then there's also HSIs, which is Hispanic Serving Institutions. And a lot of people think, well, um, HSIs are like HBCs, and they're not, because in order for an HSI to have that distinction, it's only if a certain amount of the population is Hispanic. Well, but Hispanic HBCs, their focus is to emphasize and to support African American studies, African American leadership. So that's what they do at that particular college or university. So how can we emulate HBCs for our HSIs. So that's where I think we can reinvent ourselves, especially in South Texas or in Texas in general, where we have a high Hispanic population. I want to turn our colleges, and especially our community colleges, into to teaching leadership, mentorship, and really with the ideas of embedding the Hispanic cultural values into those particular studies. So, just for instance, when we talk about leadership and we talk about a leadership course, we talk about typical leaders like Martin Luther King or John F. Kennedy or, um, prominent historic figures in America. But how about redesigning a leadership course and talk about Hispanic leaders within that context and those leadership skills? Because a lot of times, if you can't see yourself in a particular role, then how can you ever achieve it? We talk about, changing our formats between, a firefighter or a fireman. And so we change our terminology. Well, I think we need to do that too if we want to encourage Hispanics to not only persist to college, but complete their college education and also stay in education and be the faculty members, be the administrators, so that we can serve as role models to the next generations going back. So I think that's definitely a group that we need to engage. The constituents, there's tons of programs that are already focused on Hispanic students. Achieving the Dream does that. The Bill and Melinda Gates, um, Latinos Unidos. There's a lot of different organizations that we need to reach out to so that we can build those programs together. And what will we need to be taken to engage them? We just have to go and get into the system, and we have to redesign curriculum, and we have to talk to people, and we have to make partnerships, and not be afraid to kind of stand up for ourselves and say, we're going to be the largest majority of populations. What can we do to serve that population to ensure that they have an equal access to education and they persist and they become, great leaders in our country? So I think that's definitely a way I hope to redesign and reinvent, and reset our community college, especially here in South Texas. A lot of the stuff that I'm gonna learn through my doc program, I plan to bring back to Texas and take over take over the state. So we'll see what happens. Okay, thanks.